Hello. In this video, I'm going to show you how the business-to-business module works. In this particular section, we're going to talk about the front end of the module and how you can receive purchase orders from your customers as a checkout payment option. So I've already added a couple of products to my cart and I've gone through some of the checkout steps, and I'm going to proceed to the final step, which is payment. So we're going to move on, and when we look at this section, there's this new payment option that says pay by purchase order. So we're going to go ahead and select that. And here we have three things we can fill out. The first one is enter the purchase order reference number that will be included on the invoice sent for billing. So if your customer is using this option and they have purchase order, they should have a purchase order number. They would enter that number into this field. In this case, we're just going to do a couple of numbers here. The reason why they do this is that on the back end, when you send an invoice to the customer, it will automatically include their number they enter here on that invoice. It just makes it a little bit easier to send them an invoice so they can reference the purchase order that they used for the purchase. The next thing is we need to choose the purchase order. So we're going to go and click on Click File. We'll select this PDF document here, click Open. And then finally, if the customer is tax exempt for whatever reason, maybe they're a reseller or they're a government entity, then they can send you a PDF document, upload that with their order, and then you can adjust the taxes accordingly. So with that, we're going to go ahead and click I confirm my order. And that's it as far as the customer is concerned and what they would see. Now we're going to take a look at the business module in the back office after a customer has purchased something from us using the pay by purchase order module. So we have our orders menu pulled up here, and we're going to take a look at the business to business orders. We're going to go ahead and click on this test one here, and this screen is pretty much the same as you normally see. What we're going to do is we're going to go and click on the document section, and here you see just something a little bit different. Now we have this customer purchase order, and this is what the customer had uploaded. In this case, I was the customer, so I uploaded this document, and I can click on this and it'll download, and I'll open it up, and this is my sample document that I'd used, but this would typically be a purchase order. So it's always good to take a look at the customer purchase order to make sure that their purchase order actually verifies the product that they had put into their shopping cart. And that's pretty much the purchase order setup as far as receiving purchase orders from your customers. For there, you would pretty much fulfill the rest of the order like you normally would. Another useful feature of the module is the ability to be able to change taxes. So if your customer is one of those tax exempt customers and they had supplied a tax exempt document, then you can come on down to the bottom here, and there's this order taxes, and in this case we don't actually have any taxes for this particular order, but there would be an option here that you could change that would remove the taxes from this order if you needed to do that. So that's always helpful, again, for customers that for whatever reason are tax exempt. So the next thing we're going to take a look at is how the business to business module works as far as you interacting with your manufacturers. So we're again back here at the orders menu. We're already into this one test order that I created previously, and we're going to take a look at this section here. So here's your status section. We're still in the documents window here, and we have a couple different items that we can look at. The first is this generate purchase order section, and then we also have this generate ship authorization form. The difference between the two is fairly simple. The generate purchase order would be used if you're going to request your manufacturer to produce products specifically for that order. So they're going to queue production to fill something. The generate ship authorization form, you could use this if you were maybe holding stock at your manufacturer already and you just wanted them to ship product from your stock and not necessarily produce new product. Most of the time you probably use the generate purchase order, but sometimes the ship authorization form might also work as well. So we're going to go ahead and click on this button, generate purchase order, and it refetches the screen, and you got to click back into Documents, and now we have this new window that's pulled up. We got a couple of things that we can work with here. The first one is just some options or a notes field that we can use. So if you wanted to send in a note like, hey, ship UPS ground, include mounting hardware, etc., etc. So these notes will be visible to your manufacturer when they receive the document. The next one is restore product inventory. So you wouldn't typically use this necessarily for the purchase order, but you might use this option if you're doing the shipper authorization form. Well, I'll take that back. Actually, you would probably use this for a generate purchase order. The point of this is that let's say you have 10 items in stock and a customer comes in and orders 20. And instead of shipping 10 items and then having your manufacturer build another 10, maybe you want to keep the 10 you already have in stock and build a full 20 just to fulfill that order. So in that case, you would click Restore Product Inventory. What this does is this just puts back into Prestashop the number of units this customer ordered. In this case, I already put 1, so it would put 1 back into inventory. The next thing you have is the shipping date. The shipping date is how many days from the current date do you want this thing to ship. In my example, maybe my products ship in 2 weeks or 10 business days. So I would just put in, say, 14 or 14 business days. And then I'll go ahead and click the Save button. And I gotta go back to the Documents tab, and here's all my information. It's saved. And now I can go ahead and click on this, and it'll give me a preview of what my purchase order will look like. So here's my current date, this is my ship date, this is the PO number, here's all my test information, all the made up stuff, and of course my product, and this would have the pricing information if I didn't put that information and everything. So pretty basic stuff. So I'm going to come back here. So before we hit send to send the generator purchase order to the manufacturer, we're going to go ahead and just check to make sure that the manufacturer has an email address associated with them. So to do that, we're going to go over here to our catalog, and then we're going to go down to manufacturers. And we're going to look at our manufacturers here, and of course this is, in this case there's only one. And we're going to go to edit, and we're going to scroll down, and here we have where the email address needs to be specified. Currently it's blank, so if you hadn't entered in an email address here, then when you click the send on the other screen, you would have to enter it in manually. So we're just going to go ahead and just type in a test at test.com for the purpose, and we'll click save. Now since this is my demo site, I don't actually have permissions to go ahead and save this. But that's where you would enter that information if you're trying to figure out how to do it. So the only consequences, and we go back to our orders screen over here, and we go to our send button. We'll click on this, and if we had been able to save it, then this would already be filled out and you wouldn't have this error message here. But I could put, test at test.com, something like that, and click yes. And if I did that, then I would actually receive an email. So by doing that, it will send your manufacturer the purchase order email that you have, along with a brief message that's predefined in the settings of the module. Now, if a customer purchased a couple different products that come from a couple different manufacturers, then you would actually see a couple of these different fields, or be one for each of the manufacturers associated with a particular product. So you can take advantage of that feature if necessary. The generate ship authorization form, again, this looks pretty much the same as the generate purchase order. It just doesn't have the restore product to inventory feature. You can just enter in your comments here, and of course put in your shipping date and send it. Once you have sent the document, it'll have a field here that says date sent, and so that's always helpful in case you have to go back and verify they actually sent the document and need to know when. And of course it'll also record the email address that was used to send the document to. Once I send my purchase order to my manufacturer, then I go back in and I'll update my status. So I don't currently have the status in here. Usually it has something to say like manufacturing or purchase order sent, something to give me indication of what's actually going on. Um, you could possibly say on back order if you wanted to update your status, and that way you know that the product is actually being manufactured. The next thing we're going to take a look at are the module settings for the business to business module. So I'm already in the settings back here in the back office. So we got a couple of things. The email for notifications. This is just what the email address or notifications will be sent to when you get new orders. Use the B2B PDFs for purchase orders. Generally, you would want to leave this enabled. The reason being is that there's some specific components of the purchase order module on the business orders PDFs that are created. You could use your own PDFs, but you would probably have to pay someone to add in the custom features that are necessary to get all the benefits of the purchase order module. The next thing is the type of the enumeration for the order document. So if you have delivery slips or order slips or invoice numbers, things like that, all those would stay in sequence. So your invoice number might be 0001 invoice. Your order number would also be 00001 order slip, and your delivery slip would be 0001 delivery slip. So it just helps makes it easier to keep track of things. Here you can have some pre-set template messages. So when you're sending your purchase order to the manufacturer, you can have a nice little message that says, hi manufacturer, here's a new purchase order. Please put it into your production. Same thing with the ship authorization. When you click that send ship authorization, then they would receive a little message in the email, whatever you specify here. These other options are things that change how the invoice works for your customer when you send your invoice to them. So you can have a default message here, whatever that may be, and of course some contact information that would go on that PDF as well.